All right. Today, we've got a wild story for you. It's all about dedication, a bit of ingenuity, and the absolutely extreme length some people will go to just for a single button. And it really boils down to one simple question.
So let me ask you this. What if there was a feature you absolutely loved? I mean, something you use every single day, right? But to get it, you had to buy a brand new, pretty expensive piece of gear only to tear it apart. Sounds crazy, but this isn't some thought experiment. It's a real dilemma that Mac users are facing right now.
So what's this all about?
Well, it all comes down to the keyboard. It's this clash between Apple's super smooth, closed-off world and a user's simple desire to choose their own stuff. And right at the heart of this whole thing is Touch ID, Apple's fingerprint sensor. And look, if you've ever used it, you know how ridiculously convenient it is. It's baked right into macOS for logging in, popping open your password manager, buying stuff with Apple Pay. It's one of those features that once you have it, you just can't live without. Okay, so here's the rub. If you want that sweet, sweet Touch ID on your desktop Mac, you've got to use an Apple Magic Keyboard, period. But what if you're a fan of those clicky, satisfying mechanical keyboards? For better ergonomics, a better typing feel? Well, you're pretty much out of luck. Apple has Touch ID on total lockdown. No third-party keyboards are allowed to have it. So you're stuck with this choice. Do you go for Apple's convenience, or do you get the custom keyboard you actually want? But, of course, that's not where the story ends, because some really dedicated users, they found a way around it. It's not elegant, and it's definitely not cheap. But you know what? It works.
And this is where things get kinda nuts. The solution? People are buying a brand new $150 Apple Magic Keyboard, not to type on it, oh no. They're buying it to perform surgery. The whole goal is just to rip out that tiny little Touch ID sensor and its logic board. The rest of the keyboard? It's basically trash. It's this incredibly wasteful, but honestly pretty brilliant hack.
I mean, just let that sink in for a second. $150. Not for a new gadget you get to use, but for the privilege of destroying a perfectly good one just to set one single button free. But okay, getting that sensor out is, well, it's anything but easy. This is not your weekend DIY project. We're talking about a super high-stakes operation on a device that Apple specifically designed so you can't open it. So the whole process is a real ordeal. First, you have to get a heat gun just to soften up all the super strong glue holding it together. Then you've got to carefully pry the thing open without breaking it. From there, it's like you're a surgeon, delicately removing the main logic board and that precious little Touch ID sensor. And after all that, you have to stick it into a custom 3D printed case. And listen to this quote from someone who actually did it. Tearing it apart is much more daunting than it should be. I mean, that says it all, right? This thing wasn't designed for repair or modification. It was designed to keep people like us out. And here's why it's so tough. You're literally fighting through layers and layers of this goopy, strong adhesive. You could easily bend the battery, and you're just praying you can get it out in one piece. But the worst part, the absolute nail-biter, it's these tiny, paper-thin ribbon cables you have to peel off. One wrong move, the slightest tear, and boom, the whole thing's a paperweight. One person who did this said it's basically a 50-50 shot you're gonna rip one of those critical cables. But after all that, hours of fighting with glue, carefully navigating those fragile cables, with a whole lot of patience and a really steady hand, you get it. Success. The sensor is finally free. So now that we've seen just how treacherous this whole mission is, let's take a step back and really add up the true cost of setting this one little button free. I mean, look at this breakdown. You're out $150 for a keyboard you just destroyed. You've spent hours of your life doing this intense, stressful work, and you're accepting a huge risk that it's all for nothing. And what do you get for all that? A single, standalone button. And there it is, the end result. A tiny, elegant little 3D printed box. Inside is the original Apple Logic board and sensor, now free. It's a completely custom-made gadget that does something thousands of people want, but it's something Apple refuses to sell. So when you see this thing, this custom solution that was born from such an insane process, you have to ask yourself a very obvious question. I mean, think about it. People are literally destroying a $150 product to make this little thing exist. Why doesn't Apple just sell a standalone module for, I don't know, $50? The demand is obviously there, right?
Well, the short answer is, this isn't an accident. It's not some oversight. This entire situation exists by design. It's a perfect example of Apple's walled garden philosophy, where they control everything, the hardware, the software, how it all works together. And this strategy is honestly a masterclass in controlling an ecosystem. By tying a must-have feature like Touch ID exclusively to their own keyboards, they give you a really strong reason to buy Apple stuff. It's not just about selling more keyboards, it's about keeping you locked inside their world. Plus, it lets them maintain total control over security, from your fingerprint all the way to the processor. The end result? Yeah, it's an experience that feels super seamless and secure. But that seamlessness comes with a price, and that price is choice. And that brings us right back to where we started. This whole story of the $150 button, it's more than just a cool hack. It's a perfect case study of the trade-off we all face with modern tech. It's this constant battle between a perfectly controlled, seamless experience on one side and our fundamental freedom to choose on the other. So the real question isn't just for Apple, it's for all of us. Where do you draw that line?